Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'd like to discuss some of the more interesting statements to come out of the Labour conference so far, with three important economy-related messages that Labour's top team really should have been shouting about from the moment they entered power. But first, for daily political commentary, please click the subscribe button so you don't miss out. So this is the first Labour conference with the party in government since 2009. And that conference was notable for having an incredibly depressing atmosphere. I'm sure you can guess why. We were less than a year before the election would have to be called. Nobody seriously believed that Gordon Brown was putting the party into a position to win, which of course meant lots of infighting, albeit nothing like on the scale as existed within the Tory party over the last few years. That was something else. But nonetheless, you know, the way you look at it, perfectly logical. If the current direction of the party is not leading to electoral success, logically another direction is needed. Cue loads of people all claiming that their direction is better, meaning that the party started pulling against itself, and that was that. Now, I'm not at the conference this year. I was having some annoying side effects from some medical treatment I've been having and decided not to risk it. I hope that the atmosphere at this conference is much better than in 2009, but looking at the news, you could be forgiven for thinking it's actually just as bad. In some ways, Labour have only got themselves to blame by putting so much emphasis on the fact the Tories left Britain as basically a bomb site. Lots of talk about the tough decisions needed to start to fix the problem, but almost no mention of what it will look like at the end, until now. Over the past week, Starmer's given the impression that maybe he recognises this has been a mistake and aims to use the conference to inject that message of what is to come. To me, it's just a symptom of Labour's media naivety. Like, media organisations, they employ political reporters, right? It's their day job to write political articles. They're going to report on something. It's their job. If you don't give them something interesting to report on, they will find their own stories. The media, of course, are not remotely friendly to Labour at the best of times, but by not even trying to tell a story themselves, they've allowed others to write the story. It was such a weird thing to do. But Labour seems to be pushing back a bit this conference. Hopefully it continues in the weeks ahead, up to the budget and beyond. I would say the most important message to have come out today is that the upcoming budget is not an austerity budget. Now, Labour needed to keep making this clear from the start. So many have been claiming that Labour will be implementing austerity part 2 or some variation. And I said before, this is not based on anything Labour have even hinted at. Austerity is when you cut overall spending. But if you look at the size of the spending increases that Labour have announced and the size of the cuts, it's, well, the increases heavily outweigh the cuts by a long way. Now, it's entirely possible, of course, that Labour have announced all of the spending increases because they're popular and have not yet announced all of the cuts because they are unpopular. In fact, that is probable. But as I said before, the unknown cuts would have to be very, very beefy to outstrip the increases in spending already announced. But people were making this claim, so Labour should have denied it. Now, maybe Labour thought they didn't need to, because after all, it's in the manifesto. There's no doubt about it. There will be no return to austerity. That is written in the manifesto. So maybe Starmer and Reeves said, well, it's in the manifesto. We don't need to keep saying it, do we? Yes, you do. You do. But now they seem to be making it clearer. Reeves has said that the so-called black hole needs to be filled because balancing the books from day one was also a manifesto commitment, but it will not come from spending cuts, which of course means it has to come realistically from tax increases because borrowing for it wouldn't look good. And we already know that extra tax increases are coming, though tax increases on the wealthiest. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, like, we have a promise that public service spending will not be cut to deal with the Tory financial mess. We're raising taxes on the rich, which in the short term will be used to plug that financial gap, but in future can be used to fund even more investment. They've just implemented a round of significantly above inflation pay increases backdated, although I do note I've heard today that nurses have rejected theirs. We're about to boost workers' rights like hasn't happened since I don't know when, which should also help power better pay and conditions for the vast majority of workers in the coming years. And I just think about that and I wonder, how on earth I can understand some people not in Labour. There'll be some people go, oh, but Labour don't go far enough. That's fine. But I can't understand how people in Labour cannot be pleased about this. But this is where the leadership and comms team need to get better at emphasising messages like this. It's been too much on the doom and gloom. not enough light at the end of the tunnel. Even the Tories, like when they were implementing actual austerity, focused on the good times to come. Oh yeah, it's going to be brilliant. You'll never believe it. They never arrived, of course. In 14 years, they never arrived. Actually, just got worse. Well, they didn't arrive for us anyway. A few billionaires, sure. But they understood the need to keep singing the song. Reeves also emphasised her moves to recover COVID fraud money, something first announced at last year's conference. That being said, I may need to talk more about that in the future, because Joe Moem of Good Law Project, who of course is very interested in this, he doesn't think that the scope of the COVID fraud commissioner is strong enough. He's saying that the role is like a bit part-time. It seems to be 2 to 3 days a week for just 1 year. So that's nowhere near enough to investigate the sheer number of dodgy contracts. And I suspect he's probably right. Like, I'm looking at the National Crime Agency spending years so far investigating one dodgy contract related to Michelle Mone. But Reeves has said she will be recovering billions of pounds, so that's something she will be judged on. If the appointment doesn't do what Reeves aims to do, then the role will have to be extended, won't it? That would be my assumption anyway. But still, reminding people of what actual corruption is and emphasising the moves to get our money back, that's also a useful message to push, and hopefully Reeves will keep banging that drum in the future as well. In fact, this is a better message to push than pointing at the black hole, because that message is both negative to the Tories and positive to Labour, the idea of emphasising COVID fraud. You know, the Tories allowed our money to be defrauded and then refused to chase it up. Remember, for a while, Rishi Sunak said, oh, no, I'm not refusing to chase it up, not refusing to chase it up. Well, why aren't you then? Oh, yeah, I am refusing to chase it up. But Labour will be getting it back and invest in it. Of course, I've said a few times that message could be even more positive if they also spent some of it helping the excluded, because that would help attack the Tories' behaviour as well. And you keep seeing glimpses that Labour do sort of understand the benefits of having a line that is at once a dig at the Tories and positive for themselves. Like Rachel Reeves opened up by saying there were more female Labour MPs than there were Tory MPs in total. You know, with one line, you poke at the Tories and build Labour up. Well, why don't they take that approach more often? And for more serious policy statements rather than just silly opening one-liners in a speech. Finally, another message that should have been made loud and clear before now, though this time it came from Rayner, not Reeves, a strong suggestion that the budget, when announced, will include central government funds for social housing. Again, something that technically didn't need saying as such. I could have told you that. You know, the news are reporting this like it's, well, news. But it's only news to people who didn't read the manifesto. It's in there. But most people don't read the manifesto, including political journalists, it seems, judging by the way they're reporting. So Labour should have kept pushing these messages. You know, the things that they knew that they were going to be doing straight away. There are some things, of course, that will come later in the Parliament. The things they knew they were going to be doing in the first year, it's in the manifesto, but why didn't they just keep saying it? We're doing this, we're doing that. Because there's a lot of people who don't know that. They don't realise this. You know, think about the key things voters were focused on, which Sunak's government kept ignoring. Polls were consistently showing that people wanted investment, even if it meant taxes going up. Well, this is what's happening. So why didn't Labour keep emphasising this message before? Housing is also important to a lot of people, of course, as well. So anything on social housing, as well as increasing the supply of houses on the market, will be welcomed. And Labour have been pushing those messages in the last few days. Why haven't they been doing it for the last month? You know, they've been right to work on that. They've straight away out the blocks on that, but didn't feel the need to shout about it very much. You know, people are talking about the collapse in the poll ratings for Labour right now. You would, wouldn't you? But then consider that their poll ratings actually went up after the election. Now, far be it from me to point to a causal link without enough evidence. But, you know, you could look at this and you could go, well, hang on a minute, this is interesting, isn't it? Because so their poll rating went up, their approval ratings went up. For Starmer personally, for other senior politicians, including Rachel Reeves, and for Labour in general, in the first few weeks when they were making lots of announcements about getting to work on their big policy areas. They settled the junior doctors' pay dispute, they boosted public sector pay in general, they appointed actual experts to some key ministerial roles, lots of talk about GB Energy and ramming housing projects through the NIMBYs. Then the riots knocked them off their stride, okay, but since then it's like they forgot to pick up the message again. It's been all about the tough choices. Oh, this budget, you're not going to like it, you know. No wonder people believed we were heading for austerity again. Nothing Labour said in the past month countered the notion. I mean, I could hold up the manifesto and go, no, they said here. They haven't been saying it in the news. Maybe Labour should just experiment with focusing on the positive more and see how that impacts the polls. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can join for memberships. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.